Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Darina O'Dow-Padian, and I am the Vice President of Development at the Catholic Foundation. And today, Anna LeBlanc, my colleague, and I have the pleasure of welcoming you to this wonderful Circle of Life that we were able to host here at St. Gabriel's. Thank you for hosting us at your parish. We're thrilled to be here and want to thank Dr. Myra Thompson, who is actually one of our trustees on our board and a donor of the Catholic Foundation. Wanted to thank her for participating and sharing her knowledge because she's obviously a very talented OBGYN and is very passionate about bioethics. Thought you did a great presentation. I also want to recognize Tom Reedy, who is here with us today, also a founding member of St. Gabriel's Parish, and he's also on our advisory council at the Catholic Foundation. Tom, thank you for hosting us as well. And we also have the Borchers who are here today, who are also St. Gabriel parishioners and also donors at the Catholic Foundation. So thank you again. Today, our topic that Anna and I will chat about is legacy planning, charitable legacy planning. So a little more uplifting than bioethics and funeral planning and, the last rites, so to speak. It's great for us to be able to share about that. Our mission at the Catholic Foundation promotes compassionate, charitable giving and stewardship that serves donors and the needs of the community. Our vision of the Catholic Foundation is to be the primary philanthropic leader whose trusted stewardship satisfies our donors' intentions while meeting the needs of the Catholic community. St. Gabriel is one of our parishes that we have been a huge supporter in since its inception. Michael George is our historian at the Catholic Foundation. He's been with us 24 years, and he remembers every single grant that the St. Gabriel's Parish has received from the Catholic Foundation. So we feel very connected to this parish, very excited to be here today and to be at the Bishop Kelly Center. So let's talk about estate and charitable gift planning. This is something that most of you are already doing, whether you're giving in time, you're giving in your talents, you're volunteering here at St. Gabriel, or you're giving with your treasures. And that doesn't have to be millions and millions of dollars. It can be just as much as you can afford. These triggering life events that cause us to stop and think and reflect could be your last child who's graduating college, which means a huge salary increase in your house. The birth of a grandchild. That's always a time to stop and reflect on your life and your family and what you've achieved. That next generation is always very exciting. The death of a parent, I know we had a couple of people share today about family members passing and how painful that is. And it is another time of reflection in your own life. A serious illness or of a spouse or oneself. Retirement, that's always a time to stop and reflect and think about what you've done in your life already and what's next for this next chapter. The sale of a business is a huge time for reflection because there's a lot of emotional and financial decisions that have to be made. The other one that I didn't list, but I think we can all, I'm not there yet, but soon to be 65, Medicare. And when that card comes in the post, in your mail, you know that the next phase of life is about to happen. So the halftime reflection, it's kind of interesting. We're all a little different when we start reflecting on this, but we called it halftime reflection because those triggering events cause us to stop and think about what can we do for this next chapter of our lives. We've had many successes in our lives up till now, and it's time to think about what significance we want to make with the rest of the years that we have here on this earth. One of the most common characteristics of a person who is nearing the end of the first half is the unquenchable desire to move from success to significance. What makes us give and what makes us want to give? I was listening to a radio station this week, and they were doing a telethon or call-a-thon or fundraising goal, and I heard this term. I thought it was quite good. We love to give back because it makes us feel good, and we get the giving glow. So instead of a glow from another type of love, it's a love that we feel inside because we have an opportunity to give back. So that's important. How do you want to be remembered? It's just everybody has a different answer to that. Have I achieved the goals that I've set to achieve when I was put on this life? And how can I give back in a meaningful way? So those are just things to, we hope that we can encourage you to think about while we're here. And I'm going to let Anna take the next piece, which is what is a planned gift?
So thank you for having us today, and I'm really excited to be working with St. Gabriel's, and they're launching their own legacy circle. So many of you in this room might already have thought about doing something for St. Gabriel's in your plans, and if so, the church would like to recognize you, and so they have a form at the back at the tables. They would love for you to become a member and be recognized during your lifetime for something that you're doing now. So please take advantage of that, and you can talk to Audrey Hare or Brent Simon about that. So what is a planned gift? It's really more than just writing a check. And so when we say plan, you really have to stop and think and plan. And how is this going to affect me? How's this going to affect our family? And you can plan for a current gift. It doesn't have to be when you're gone. So if you're, it's just kind of, you have to take a little step further and say, okay, well, maybe I'm going to give stock. That takes some planning. You may have to work with your stockbroker or your financial planner professional. So a planned gift is just something you're going to do. You have to stop. You have to think about how's that going to affect you either now or in the future. And it's usually much larger than you give in your checkbook. So that's where planned gift comes in, how it can be significant for you. So why would somebody plan? I mean, hopefully all of you in this room are giving in the basket every week, or maybe doing a monthly contribution to your church, or giving to your university, to your kids' school. I mean, there's all different places and organizations that need your funds. And so it's just a way of continuing that giving when you're gone, because the church still needs the money when you're gone. So we call that giving while living, and just supporting your charities now and in the future, thinking about what can you do for those organizations that you love, and planning something where they can still receive in the future. And there's definitely different tax advantages as far as what types of gifts that you give your family versus the types of assets for your family versus the type of assets for the organizations. So we're not financial planners up here, but I do encourage you to work with yours to see what's going to be the best source of an asset to give to your family versus your organization. So how do you want to be remembered? Some people want to be anonymous. They don't want to have their name out there when they're giving other people, put my name on the stained glass window or on the church pews or wherever. So just think about what is significant for you. Is it with you and your spouse? Is it the family name? What do you want to, how do you want to be remembered? And what organizations do you want to be remembered with as well? So one of the ways that Myra's talking about end of life and all of the different things that we've learned with Catholic bioethics, but really when you give through an organization, that's really a way that you can continue giving on and on and on. And so we just encourage you, if that's something that might touch you today or you're more interested in, please give us a call. We'd love to help you think about what you could do with remembering yourself and your family in the future. Am I still going, Drina? Or
Yeah.
Is this you? Okay, good. Okay, so where do you give? I mean, you can give directly to whatever charity that you want to give to. I mean, that's in the U.S. or beyond. There's all the charities, they will take your funds, so no worries there. Some people decide to set up a private foundation, and that's great. It usually requires a lot of money up front. So just be aware of that, and it does require some tax implications and implications with the IRS and filing a tax return for that private foundation. And my friend Michael George likes to say, a private foundation is not very private, because your 990 tax return is it's available to the public, and they can see where you're giving, how much you're giving, your address, your phone number, because we look it up all the time in our business to see what private foundations are out there. So just keep that in mind. If that's something you want to do, that's great, but it's not necessarily private. But if you do establish a fund through a community foundation, such as the Catholic Foundation, we can help you have those be private. So, so if you're interested in a donor advised fund or working with a community foundation, whether that's for your current giving or for future giving, we're here to help you guys.
Right, so just based on what Anna was sharing, I think it's probably helpful for us to talk about what you can give to charity. The most obvious form of a giving tool or a giving vehicle is cash, a check. That seems to be what we're used to doing, but there's a lot more advantageous assets that you can consider giving to charity that you probably know a lot of them, but the appreciated assets and stocks, appreciated stocks and mutual funds are probably, I would say, the most commonly given asset to charity at this time, because if you have an asset that you purchase the stocks, for example, for $100,000, and today they're worth $200,000, if you gift that stock you transfer it, you don't sell it, you transfer it to a nonprofit like the Catholic Foundation or a community foundation, you receive the benefit of that $200,000 without any estate gains on that or capital gains. So that's how you avoid getting taxed for the higher bracket, but you will receive the full credit and that money, especially for stocks, if you work with your broker and just request the transfer to a nonprofit, they will receive that full value of the $200,000 for charity. So that's your gain goes back out to your favorite causes like St. Gabriel or whomever you're choosing to support. Retirement accounts, that's very popular. I know looking around the room, I think many of you probably have retirement accounts, but just to know that that is a very flexible tool to give to charity. Retirement accounts and also life insurance policies. Those two you can make your favorite charity or your community foundation or whatever nonprofit you're supporting. They can be the beneficiary of that life insurance policy. Instead of your children, if your children are already set in life and don't need it anymore, and you have a life insurance policy that's just sort of sitting out there, you can easily change that beneficiary to a charity. So that's one that you probably don't feel as much because it's not to be used until you pass away. Other complex assets that we at the Catholic Foundation are able to transfer into charitable funds for you would be homes. If you have your home of residence and you're not gifting it away to the next generation, do consider that as an asset to give to a charity like St. Gabriel's Parish or one of your favorite charities of your choice. Real estate, land, mineral assets, artwork collections, pianos. We take it all. The only thing that Catholic Foundation will not take is anything that breathes. So no livestock, no camels, nothing crazy like that. But we are able to transfer a lot of your assets into your charitable giving. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us because that is one of the areas that we can help you with. The other thing that I want to talk about is, I think Anna touched on it earlier, the two ways you can give is giving now while we're all sitting here today while we're alive, and giving after your lifetime. Giving while we're alive, cash or stock we covered. The one thing I want to chat about a little bit is donor advised funds. Some of you may be familiar with this giving vehicle, but it's probably the most common type of fund that the Catholic Foundation works with donors on. It's a fund that you can establish with us, and it's a charitable giving fund. So how it works is you would sign an agreement with the Catholic Foundation, you would create or establish it with a gift from your assets, whether it's a cash or stock or that piano or a type of retirement asset or so on. And then that money will it'll be established in this fund, and based on your request, it's called a donor advised fund because you have to advise us or request from us how to grant out the money. So we do not give your money away. You have to request where you'd like your money to go. So we try to explain it like a charitable checking account. The money is established, or the fund is established with a contribution. You immediately get a tax deduction for that gift because we are a 501c3. So you get your immediate tax deduction at that time when you make that gift. There's no time limit as to when you have to distribute out that money. It's really on your schedule. So if you want to distribute it out over 5 years, 10 years, or straight away, if you have a cause you want to distribute it out, you basically go online and request a grant, and within a week we will have that request sent out to the charity of your choice.
Dorena, I just want to say I have one as well, and one of the things that I like about it is that every year I can go online and say, well, how much did I give to my church last year, or how much did I give to the bishop's annual appeal? It's all there online. You get one tax receipt, and you can send it out to 10 different charities or however many charities you want. So it's really easy from a tax planning perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, that is true. I have we work with a donor, and he sends out about 50 grants a year, and his wife begged him to come and set up a donor advised fund because she said the house is insane from January to April trying to chase down those tax receipts. So we just send him one tax receipt after the beginning of the year, and that's all he needs for when he meets with his tax accountant. So there's a lot of advantages to donor advised funds. There's two types of funds, donor advised funds, that we help establish. One is a market participating donor advised fund, where you choose to have our investment company and our board invest your funds. And so if you establish it with $10,000, in a couple of years it may be worth $12,000 or $14,000, and you have that much more money to give out to charity. Or you can choose to open a non-market participating fund. So if you establish it with $10,000, it will remain at $10,000, and there is no fee to establish a non-market participating fund. It's basically, we take care of that for you, so there's no additional cost to that. And then, of course, there's the QCD, the IRA, Qualified Charitable Distribution. For those of you over 70 and a half, the limit per person is $100,000 to charity. So that's a great way to use your retirement funds they don't get into your estate at all, and you can just give directly out to charity. So giving later, that's the planned giving or the legacy giving, which is what we're here to talk to you about today. You can make a gift through your will. You can designate it to a nonprofit in your will. Establish an endowment fund. We establish endowment funds at the Catholic Foundation, and those are permanent funds that will carry your name or your family's name through perpetuity. So that's something we'll talk about a little later in the presentation. A charitable remainder trust and charitable gift annuities, those are both other vehicles where you will receive income while you're alive during your lifetime, and then there will be a portion that will go to the charity at the end of your lifetime. So that's what we call a split interest gift, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Beneficiary designations, we talked about life insurance as being a fantastic way to give back to charity, and also your IRA or a bank account, you can put your favorite charity as the designation. Private foundation, we have had donors who've had their own family private foundations, and as Anna said, it's a lot of work to manage a family foundation, and so after many years of managing a foundation, a great option for families who have foundations is to convert it into a donor advised fund at a community foundation. And therefore, the work of the giving and so on, they advise where the grants go, but we handle all the administrative work for them. And so there's no time frame that the money has to be gifted out, whereas when you have a private foundation, you have to gift out 5% of the assets every year. And there's an awful lot of paperwork associated with filing every year. So it's a very nice option when a family who runs their own private foundation wants to close the foundation because their children don't want to manage it anymore, or they just realize that this is more work than they're willing to do as they get older in life. So that's a great opportunity too. So we've had opportunities to work with many families in Dallas. Our donor base is not just Dallas based. We have donors from all over the country. You can grant out all over the country, and if you want to grant to Israel or another charity that's outside the U.S., if they have an affiliation here in the U.S., a 501c3 that they're a partner with, like United Way or so on, you can make a grant to that organization through your donor advised fund as well. So that's the most flexible vehicle that we offer. The now and later split interest gifts, the one we talked about a little while ago, Anna's going to cover charitable gift annuities, but basically these vehicles, a charitable remainder trust or charitable gift annuity, there's beneficiaries that receive income during their lifetime, and then after they pass, there will be a gift that goes to charity. And so I'll let Anna talk about a charitable gift annuity.
These are really just win-win, you know, and it's one of those vehicles where the older you are, the better rate you get. So it's kind of like, yay, I'm older, I get a better rate. So you can just see on the chart there what the different rates are. If you're 60, you put in a minimum of $10,000. That's the minimum that we have. And so you put in $10,000. That means that you get 4.9% for the rest of your life. At the end of your life, probably going to be the $36.80, which is the tax deduction that you get. That will probably be the amount that comes back to the foundation or whatever organization that you name. So if you're interested in that, we can provide more information on it, but it is a great way to get some money out of your estate now and then get some income as well as helping charity at the end. So come see us if you want more information about that. We talked a lot about donor advised funds. I think this is pretty much we covered everything. Last 2 points I do want to mention. So say you have this donor advised fund, you're using it during your lifetime, you're making gifts to your church, to your university, whoever, and then you're like, okay, well, I want to support charity in my will. And I see our lawyer arrived, so I'm not going to say too much about this, but say you want to name charity in your will, but maybe you named 5 charities, and then 10 years later, you're like, well, I'm not really friends with that charity anymore. I want to make some changes. So you could either go back to your lawyer and say, okay, redo the whole will because I want to take this charity out and put this charity in. If you name a donor advised fund in your will, you just tell the lawyer the first time, okay, put my donor advised fund in my will. You can change it with us at any time. You can change those 5 or those 10 or 15 organizations that you want to support, and we don't charge you anything, and so it's very flexible if you wanted to do that as a way of supporting charity. And another reason why people would use a community foundation, maybe you really like an organization that's a very small organization, and maybe they go out of business or something. You know, we can put provisions in our documentation that says, well, I really like this animal shelter, but if they don't exist, please give it to a different animal shelter that has the same mission. So we can work with you on that. And say you want your kids to be charitable after you're gone, and so there is ways when, you know, both spouses or the first generation passes, the money goes into this fund or an endowment that you have in your family's name, then your kids get to say where that money goes. So it's kind of like a private foundation. You're helping them out, and they get to decide where the money goes. If you like where they decide where it goes, or you just say, okay, when I'm gone, I want this endowment, and I want 10% to go to St. Gabriel's, and like you say where it goes, or the kids get to. So one of the things is, if you do that through your will, you can establish an endowment, or you can say just spend it all out the year that it comes. So it's really simple, it's flexible, and you're in control. So we're really big fans of this, if you can't tell. Okay.
So now we'll tell a few stories about donors that we've worked with who have passed away. They're no longer with us, but their names live on in many of the organizations that you know and we know here in the community. The first is Rita Smith. She was born in 1918 from Wiley, Texas. And Rita was the youngest of 7 children. She was very, very devout Catholic, and as it happened, she went to boarding school at Ursuline Academy in the 30s. And I have 3 daughters. 2 of them graduated from Ursuline, and 1 is still there. And I was recently at the school walking down the hallways looking at all the photographs of the classes from 18, I think it's like 80s or 1887 it started, but they're celebrating their 150th year. Clearly, I can't count, but if we go back 150 years, that's the years it was established. But I saw a picture of Rita Smith on the wall, and I thought that was so neat because she was one of the graduating classes of her year in the 30s. And, you know, at that time, she was probably 20 when she graduated. No, actually 18 years old. And, you know, who knew what they're thinking at 18? They're not thinking that they're going to open a donor advised fund at the Catholic Foundation when they're in their 80s. But that's what she did. So Rita grew up in Texas, as I said, in Wiley, and married. Her husband was not Catholic. He was a Methodist banker, as it happened in Wiley, and they established the Truett and Rita Smith Foundation Fund at the Catholic Foundation, and that was in 2006. They had no children. They were very civically involved in Wiley and in and around Dallas. She was very passionate about Ursuline Academy because she had attended there, but also very passionate about St. Anthony's, which is the Catholic church in Wiley. As it happened, she and her husband lived right across the street from the Catholic church. And so she established a donor advised fund in 2006 at the Catholic Foundation and started using that as her giving vehicle to all the different charities that she supported in Wiley and Dallas and in other areas. And then in her estate plan, she allocated a percentage of her estate to go into her donor advised fund when she passes away, and was able to plan out how she would like that donor advised fund to be distributed out after her lifetime. So everything that she did, obviously she was very forward thinking for her time, but she had it all laid out beautifully. Changed it, I think, monthly in the last 5 years of her life. So Michael got to know her very well. Michael said he made her feel like a giant because apparently she was this high. And if you haven't met Michael, he's the tall 6'5" guy at the back of the room. But anyway, a wonderful lady. She passed away in 2011, and from her estate, $1.2 million went into her donor advised fund. Today, her donor advised fund is worth $1.9 million, and every year, 4.5% of the value of her donor advised fund, which is now a permanent fund at the Catholic Foundation, that money goes out to the charities that she had listed before she passed away. And one of them happens to be the Methodist Church that her husband was a member of. So you can give to Catholic and non-Catholic organizations through your donor advised fund. The only organization we'd probably have to call you back and say we can't grant that is to Planned Parenthood. So as long as it's within Catholic teaching, you can support organizations all over the country. So really neat story. She continues to, Rita's name is mentioned every year because she does tuition assistance at Ursuline Academy. There's a school in Wiley named the Rita Smith School, and the library that she and her husband established, their names are also on the building of the library in Wiley. So that's Rita Smith. I'll let Anna talk about our next donor.
Okay, another great Ursuline grad, and one as well. Our attorney's one from Ursuline, so shout out to Ursuline this year. Louise Buer, fifth-generation Swiss immigrant. She was very involved with St. Bernard's in East Dallas. Again, single, no children. What her gift was, during her lifetime, she established a charitable trust with us, put $777,000 in it with stocks and property. And so with this charitable trust, so she lived 8 years while this trust was going on. During those 8 years, she herself received $360,000 for her own cost of living, whatever she wanted to use with it. And then when she passed away, that became more into her fund. So after her lifetime, the endowment was worth $4.5 million, what she put in. And since then, so the past 20 plus years, organizations have gotten $3.9 million, which is huge. I mean, so every year she is giving to the elderly, to education, to other organizations that were important to her. And now that fund has grown to $11.6 million, which is huge. So that's just the power of endowment. Just wanted to kind of share those couple of stories with you. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, I'm not super wealthy, but I do have some funds, and I want to be in charge of what happens to my funds. You don't want the IRS to be in charge of what happens to your funds. So that's another. Please plan it out. Please write it out what you want to do. And we just are giving some suggestions for you to think about. You're here because you want to think about all these issues, which is great. You know, maybe now during your lifetime you're doing a biblical tithe, whether that's during your lifetime or beyond. You say, okay, 10% to charity. Maybe you think, well, you know, St. Gabriel still needs my annual contribution when I'm gone. What does that look like? So whatever you're giving now, times that by 20, and that's how much it would cost to have an endowment set up where that money would spin off how much you need to support St. Gabriel's when you're gone. Or you could say, you know, you really love charity and you want to treat them like one of your children. You have 3 kids. You might consider charity your 4th child, and so just divide it out 25% each way. So that's just another way to think about that.
So what are the next steps for your charitable legacy planning? Praying obviously helps us all. So we encourage you to pray and think about how you might want to leave your legacy. And now is the time to think about it, and now is the time to plan on that, because after your lifetime, it's too late. It's already happened. So we encourage you to think about what you can do while you're alive. Take an inventory of all your assets. These are things that we know we should do eventually, and some of us are more proactive and some of us are procrastinators. So don't be like me, and please go ahead and get an inventory of your assets. That's probably the right thing to do. We're trying to give you guidelines and you know, make suggestions, because some of you may have children that will be inheriting your estate, in the sense that they're going to be the people who are going to have to make the decisions after you're gone. And if they don't know what your plans are today, it's going to be very stressful and very tough on them. And you know, you're helping that next generation out tremendously to getting it all documented for them. And they will be very grateful for that. And then plan on how you'll distribute all of God's gifts to your heirs, to charity, and then of course to Uncle Sam, because he's always going to be in the picture. So thank you very, very much. We're available for questions if you have any, and we're going to be here till the end of today. So if anyone has any questions, please let us know. Michael has a microphone, and if not, we'll move on to the next speaker. I think we might take a little break. Yeah, we'll take a little break before we have our final speaker for today. So thank you very much for your attention, and we're here if you have any questions. Thank you.